Greetings and thank you for joining me in another segment of Inmates for Change. My name is Jones. I'm the founder, CEO of the 501c3 not-for-profit Inmates for Change. With Inmates for Change, we are dedicated to breaking the bondage of destructive thinking along the way of providing reentry services for returning citizens and individuals who are in the community who have felony convictions in their background, and they're finding it a bit hard to, or I should say a bit difficult, I apologize, to reintegrate back into community, in some cases family, society, and corporate America, respectively. We offer a path to purpose rehabilitative education that offers anywhere up to, well, we like to say from 6 to 24 weeks of rehabilitative classroom curriculum. And it's critical thinking skills, interpersonal interaction, teamwork. There's a relationship issues, self-image, spiritual connectedness, God consciousness, and linkage to vocational training. We provide these services as well as the curriculum for individuals who need that bridge to get over the gap between stagnation of staying in the same place in their mindset and moving forward to become owners of their destiny. Tonight's topic will be what you think is going on really ain't what's going on. Before we start the conversation, let me give you some contact information for us at Inmates for Change. We can be reached at 773-746-3075 between 9:30 a.m. and 3 p.m. Monday through Friday. If you'd like to take a view at our website, wix.com/inmatesforchange.org, and we're accepting all emails at inmatesforchange@gmail.com. I'm going to get into what you think is going on really ain't what's going on. And I want to give a number out, so those of you who are listening in or viewing in, if you're up to it, give us a call, 312-738-1060. So let's get started. What I think is going on really ain't what's going on in the way of being cool, staying in trouble, lying to everyone, going to prison, and hanging out with the old crowd. Now, the first bullet point that I'm going to mention here and give a little bit on is being cool. You know, a lot of us had a gang affiliation before we ended up becoming incarcerated or even changing our lives. And living in the inner city, in the low-income areas, crime is high, gangs are prominent, and there's also a lot of substance abuse as well as dysfunctional relationships. So, being cool thinking that I'm plugged with this gang, what I don't realize after a certain amount of time, I'm expected to produce more and more illegal activities to maintain my status of staying in the gang. So, I tend to do things that my parents taught me about not doing, for the acceptance of the peer group that are in the outside world for me. Now, I've been known to speak with individuals, and being a former gang member myself, it's a different culture today. It's so easy to fall into these traps because it seems to be a lack of a cohesive community. In my day, even the wine head could tell you, boy, don't be playing no hooky. Don't end up like me. Get your little butt back in school. I know who your mama is. And you know, at 9, 10, 12 years old, you don't know because the community back then was so tight. Miss Anderson down the street, Miss Johnson across the street, Mr. Alexander who had the store down at the corner, they were all watching. Your school teachers, we had truant officers, and we also had a thing amongst the student body to excel at the grades and the school curriculum. You know, there have been many times that I had bought papers home with 100 on them and a gold star and asked my mother to put it on the refrigerator and that kind of thing. And we don't necessarily see that being broadcast too much. It's not that it doesn't happen. It's just that we don't hear about it as much. You hear about it in the kindergartners and the preschoolers and that kind of thing. But sometimes we seem to forget that the child that we're rearing is, in fact, still a child. They're still a child in a lot of ways. I work with adult individuals, but they're still emotionally stunted at around 13, 14 years old, because of some stagnation in their development and a decision to stay where they are because of the peer group that they run with. So the second part of this is becoming a dropout. I see more and more individuals standing on these street corners as I'm headed my way to work. And it's a bunch of young individuals who could possibly be somewhere doing a whole lot better with their time and their mind if they were encouraged to go. Again, there's the community. We've got a community. So we've got to relate to these individuals who are out here in a way better than selling dope is your way to the American dream, or in the culture to the American nightmare, because all it will do is end you up in jail, shot down, or walking around with a limp or riding in a wheelchair for the rest of your life. So I need you to understand, what I think is going on really ain't going on. This is not what's going on. I was speaking with a gentleman earlier today, and his son is being solicited by Morehouse College. That is amazing. It might be Morehouse University by now, because the time when I was going through, a lot of the places that are universities now were, in fact, growing. So if I've made any infraction that was somewhere not accurate about Morehouse, let me let you know. It's in Atlanta. Okay, Morehouse University. Let me say with a university aiming high. The second part of this is what I think is going on really ain't what's going on. It's staying in trouble. I've got this thing where I've got this criminal behavior. I've become a disruption in the household. And, people have come by and started shooting in the doorways or the house that we live in and this kind of thing. And I'm practicing stealing or tearing people off or hitting a lick, thinking that this is what's going on. This is not really what's going on. It's not what's going on. Self-destruction is not a part of your human nature, and it surely isn't at all a part of your spiritual being. But if we're not taught as young kids coming through the distinction between the right and wrong, the subtle point between good and evil, then we're going to be led or often misled by a peer group, trend, or some other type of negative connotation that seems to be attractive. And believe me, I had fallen into the same thing. In my early days, there was a thing called Superfly. And Superfly kind of opened up the door to what I thought was being cool. And I thought this was what was going on. Selling a little cocaine, to keep money in my pocket, driving this slick car, going through these women, and not having any commitment to them, which is one of my points that I'm going to be getting to. What I think is going on really wasn't what was going on. But if no one is there to stand in front of me to tell me that nothing that I'm doing is productive at all along the ways of criminality, gang affiliation, disruption in the household, and of course becoming a dropout. It's just sad to say. I remember my own mother saying to me, at 13, you have the intellect to be a doctor, and all you want to be is a gangbanger? Man, what a waste. What a waste. And then, she proceeded to put these steps in place to try to divert me from that endless path of recidivism and broken dreams and just destroying everything that I was touching. Those of you who would like to join the conversation again, we're at 312-738-1060. Moving on. What I think is going on, really, ain't what's going on. Especially when it comes to lying to everyone. When I start lying, I become irresponsible. And as my irresponsibility grows, I am progressively becoming unaccountable. And if I can't be accountable, then I'm going to be non-committal. I'm not going to have a connection that I know will be vibrant, will be strong, it will be productive, it will be fruit-bearing, and it'll be something I can be proud of. We have so many situations where individuals get to line, firstly, to themselves, And it seems to be something of a natural course. It's not a spiritual destination. It's just a human nature thing. There's a Romans 7, verses 14 through 24, where the verse goes, I'm going to paraphrase it. I do what I hate to do. And I know I hate to do it, but I keep on doing it. And it seems I can't stop from doing what I hate to do. That's just about it in a nutshell. Those of you who would like to know more on that, refer to your Bible at Romans 7, 14 through 24. By lying to everyone, I become irresponsible, which means I can't be trusted. I just can't be trusted because no one around me wants to be bothered with an individual. Who knows when you're going to be telling the truth if you start out lying, or you lie when the truth is convenient? That's something to think about. Being unaccountable. Me telling someone that I'm going to be at a certain place at a certain time, and for whatever reason, I'm not there. I've done it many times in my marriage. I've done it many times coming through as an adolescent. I did it through grade school to try to keep from getting the punishment that would be coming along the lines of some of my behaviors and this type of thing, And the thing we don't seem to understand for all of this is this stuff reflects on our later life. Our later life. We've got guys who are, and women, who are feeling the wrath of these poor decisions and poor choices that we made early on in our lives that affected us so negatively that now we're spending the rest of our lives trying to get back what we thought we lost when we had a chance to get it and we didn't appreciate it. Those of you who would like to give us a call at Inmates For Change, we're at 773-746-3075. Our phones are open from 9:30 a.m. until 3 p.m. Monday through Friday. Do us a solid, man, and take a view at our website at thewix.com/inmatesforchange.org. And of course, those of you who are computer savvy, we can take our emails at inmatesforchange@gmail.com. Excuse me. I have a couple of buddies. Well, they used to be buddies. They're not buddies much anymore. Who has this thing about being non-committal. They've got a few women in their lives, and they've got different types of individuals that they do different type of things with, and they lie a lot. And when I was out in the streets and I was hanging out and I was getting high and all that kind of stuff, and criminal behavior was part of my MO for the day, it seemed like that was part of acceptance. That's the acceptance that we understand. It was if you snooze, you lose. You should be able on top of your game that when I'm trying to play you. Now, I'm plus 60 years old now. Looking back I look at all the wasted time that I spent hanging out there on those street corners, and to what avail. There's some buddies of mine that are still out there, and they still doing the same thing, the same way, and it's showing on them. I'm sure you all know some people that when you came home from prison, you went back to the old land, and you looked at the people that you used to run with, and they actually look like the walking dead. And the sad thing about it is they're content in being where they are. Some of them have surrendered to the point of, hey man, this is all I know and this is all I'm going to do. And I know trying to come out of this is too hard. I've wasted too much time. And it's almost like talking to a brick wall when you start speaking about change, reinventing yourself, and moving on to productive living. So we've got to keep in mind that what I think is going on, it really ain't what's going on. This segment today is dedicated to the individual who may not even be watching this show. Because he's so busy or she's so busy out there still trying to perpetrate the fraud of the reputation that they thought they were developing. They go to prison and come back, and they find out that everything that they thought they knew is not effective anymore. So now they try to learn new skills about how to destroy themselves, their families, their community, and their aspirations for life, and living along the lines of a God-filled life. We're in some deep water, gentlemen and ladies. We are in some very, very deep water. Actually, we're in open water. and we're not prepared. And open water is where the sharks and the whales are. So you can just imagine how deep that water is. Getting back to what I'm talking about tonight. What I think is going on really ain't what's going on. How about all this time I keep going back and forth to prison? I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to take a call right now. And what I'm going to do with this individual who's calling in, after I have them get a chance to put their contribution in, I'm going to pick up right where I was talking about going to prison. Caller, tell me who you are and what your contribution is.
Yes, sir, Mr. Jones. This is Ray.
Hey, Ray, how you doing? Thanks for calling in.
Oh, fine. You know what gets me? I don't care if you don't stop lying to yourself. If you smoke or you drink or you do drugs or you rob people or whatever vice you have, quit lying to yourself.
That's right.
because the first thing you say is, "I'll start tomorrow."
Yeah.
Or I'll start next week.
Yeah.
And guess what? If you don't stop when you said you're going to stop, you might as well give up because there's no help for you. I smoked and drank for 35 years. I quit 25 years ago.
Man, congratulations.
Cold turkey, and I feel so much better.
Yeah.
But I was lying to myself for 35 years.
35 years in a row.
And then I said, you know what? This stuff ain't no good for me.
That's right.
So I just quit. I feel better. I look better. And I talk better.
There you go.
So tell the people to quit lying to themselves, because the longer they lie to themselves, the longer they're going to be in the same situation.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Ray, for checking in. That was a great comment, man. I truly appreciate you. You know, Ray, you and I have something in common. My tear of my addiction and my criminality ran 35 years as well. And I've been home now about 8 years from incarceration. So I've turned my life around. I've gotten God in my life, and I'm coming up on 10 years clean and sober. And we, you and I, as well as many others like us, male and female, have gone on to know that once you put that stuff down, you do feel better, and you start accomplishing more, and you start feeling a lot better about what you're doing, as well as the accomplishments that you're having. So thanks again, Ray, for the call, and man, keep listening in. I surely appreciate it. Those of you who would also like to make a call, we're at 312-738-1060. I'll say it again nice and slow for you. 312-738-1060. Now, getting back to the point that I was making earlier, just before the call came in, Ray, we were talking about thinking and how it ain't really going on. So, going back to prison, this going back and forth to prison and these poor choices and decisions, and they ain't got the nerve to brag about it, man. Some of this stuff is really so stupid. It just does not make any rational sense. And I've got a hair that's doing something, scratching my nose. So don't you all out there think I'm being vulgar or anything. It's a hair that's turned up in my mustache. We've got these gentlemen and women who have gone places. Now, I'm going to be honest, I don't hear much about it through women, and I work with ex-offender population. I don't hear women bragging about being in prison. But I hear about men talking about it, or males, who sound like they went to Morehouse College, man. Like they've gone on to get their masters in what? Streetology? Gang banging? You're an OG now, which means what? You ain't calling no shots. You're not picking up a pension from the gangs. And you sure ain't getting a notice of recognition or an award or a gold watch or something for all your years in criminality. It's not happening like that. So this going back and forth to prison is not some status of your manhood. Just like having a whole bunch of babies by a whole lot of different women and not taking care of any of them, it ain't what's going on. Some of the sad misnomers that we have today about what the new generation is thinking is the real deal. We look at these pants sagging. I've watched them over the course of the time that they first started when it was a homosexual jailhouse type of identifier. It came into the hip-hop generation. They started wearing these pants hanging off of them. and having their underwear up over their belt showing, first, when it first started. I saw a guy today, my wife and I were downtown. Now he's downtown, and I literally, as much as I hated it, I could see the bottom of his boxers. Now, how can that be something that really, this is what's going on? I'm walking around with my pants halfway pulled up on me. And it's just so disgusting to see our youth getting caught up in this thing, especially our male members, and then the female members of our culture not saying a word about it. Like, it's okay for you to walk out showing your drawers and them skid marks. This is sad. This is a sad, sad case. What I think is going on, it really ain't going on. And you would think that an individual who's wearing his pants like that, you wouldn't be stupid enough to be out there in the street trying to commit crime. How you gonna run? Let's get back to the point, man. Going back and forth to prison, these choices and these decisions, looking at how my life is passing me up, and then bragging about it. Like I'm some tough guy or I'm real important, I come in to an environment that's already in a poor condition. And I look toward getting out of this condition by self-destructive behaviors, self-destructive thinking, non-committal type of relations toward each other. I don't have any accountability. I'm irresponsible on the first order. And I'm vulgar, and then sometimes I'm smelling like livestock, and I don't care. And you're supposed to be okay with that, America, and Black America in this case. When I speak about the culture, I'm also speaking about the culture of the re-entry population, and how I've seen some 45-year-old men, males, walking around with their pants hanging off of them also. You know how stupid that looks, man? Do you have any idea how stupid you look walking around trying to look like you 16 years old? It ain't right for them. It's extremely wrong for you. And you should be leading some type of example by way of positive productiveness and self-image that's 100% self-worth. How can you brag about going to prison? What I think is going on really ain't what's going on. But I am so twisted in this abstract thinking that when someone tries to come around with some rationale and some positivity, I tend to shun it because I'm so caught up in what I think is going on really ain't what's going on. One of the things I do know, and I walk the street sometimes during the course of my day, and I stop individuals by themselves. Believe me, these little chumps are real intelligent. They just don't have any father figures in front of them. There are no men figures in front of them. There's no one who's putting their foot down and drawing the line and saying, you don't come across this line, little boy. And you grow into something. And we have such a dysfunction in the community that it's almost no wonder why this type of behavior is so acceptable, widespread. What do we do? Can you imagine seeing a guy walking with his pants hanging down and he's got a little baby with him almost just out of Pampers or on the way out of them, and his Pampers are hanging over the top of his little pants? This is something. I got to also think about hanging out with the old crowd. I end up in the same area. I've got this displaced loyalty, and I've got this distorted perception. I've got to figure out a way to make this thing work for me. And I already know that I need to be doing something different. But I try to make more feeble excuses upon feeble excuses to keep me from progressively moving forward in my life. I want to say to you all that this is a real sore spot for me tonight. And this is why Inmates For Change is out here. We're breaking the bondage of destructive thinking. I want to take a moment and say thank you for all you viewers who tuned in. Ray, thanks for calling in. This production tonight was paid for in part by the professionals at the Mobile Dock. I'm Mr. Jones. Everyone calls me Jones, including my mama. And I want to tell you, thank you. Have a good night and see you next time.